Okay, I would like to officially call to order the Tuesday, March 6th, 2018 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. And as always, we'll start with a roll call. I am Brian Barabee.
I am Jeff Bryan.
Emily Winter.
Rebecca Longo.
Excellent. And first up this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent submitted by Michael Burke for the proposal of a garage at the property located at 777 Harvard Road. The public meeting to be held this evening. At this point in time, Rebecca, do we have an update on this one?
Yes, so we are looking to schedule a site visit if necessary by the commission. The reason why I say if necessary is because it's it's highly visible from the road. The entire property's lawn. There is wetlands in close proximity to where they are proposing to put a garage. There had been historically there had been a barn structure on the property adjacent to where their turnaround sort of paved parking area exists currently. Yeah. So they'd be looking to basically rebuild what was previously there. But aside from that, they had requested a continuance as the applicant is away on vacation or on business, I forget which, and they asked to continue until March 22nd.
Do you think it's fairly, I mean, I'm happy to help to set up a site visit and try to get there for a site visit.
Yep.
If you think it's fairly visible from the road, if we, when we look at the NOI, if we can figure out what's going on when we drive by. We don't need to, I don't know if people want to get out there and take a look.
I don't have a problem getting there.
Jeff
you can walk up and take a look.
Yep.
77 Harvard, if you want to, because looking at the NOI, it seems pretty.
Is that 77 Main Street?
It's 777 Harvard.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but regardless, they requested a continuance, so I make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 777 Harvard Road until our March 22nd meeting at a time to be determined and posted.
Second.
Put them on for 7:15.
Jeff with the second. All those in favor for continuing?
Good.
Aye. So moved.
So the minutes, I conserved paper, they're on the back of your agenda.
And these didn't change from this time or yesterday's, right?
Nope. Yes, these are the same that were emailed.
TV come down, no, I know. Anybody have any questions with minutes, problems, errors, corrections? All right, in that case, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes for our February 20th, 2018 meeting as submitted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So approved. 8 minutes.
So I'll just touch on 466 South Bolton Road. This is a project that we're just waiting to stabilize with vegetation. However, during the rainstorm, we had not the nor'easter that came in, but prior to that, there was substantial runoff, which caused siltation in the riprap area that went through the basin and then under the road, basically out the culvert, and caused a mess. The engineer had contacted the homeowner, cleaned it up themselves. They will be emailing me a report with a management plan moving forward before it gets stabilized, as it was sheeting off of the dirt now, slope, as well as the silt fence was not installed correctly and there was no apron into the ground, which you typically have with insulation, and it was just going right under. And the reason why that occurred was because it was left, the site was left not maintained throughout the winter. So once everything was in place, it was hydro-seeded, and then, like I said, all this runoff with the rain and snow melt. So they've been made aware of the situation. There will be a management plan in place until it becomes stabilized more towards middle of spring as we move forward. And they'll be giving us updates to be sure that they're actually going out to the site and checking things.
That one of the corner looks like they did put the new silt fence in.
Yes.
I saw it the other day. I was driving by there. Oh, okay. They really.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if they were being proactive in doing that, but it sounds like
they were
that's
being
more reactive.
And also the DPW director was out on site with me as well to address any drainage concerns and share his thoughts on it as well, because it had flooded over the entire road and into the neighbor's yard.
That's where they stand.
Yep.
Yeah. Potential project in Bower Springs.
Yeah, I can explain that in 5 minutes. So at Bower Springs Conservation Area, we were looking, well, part of the open space and recreation plan suggests that we do or proposes that we do a project within the first year, at least design a project within the first year that increases accessibility, whether that be parking areas or trails. And this has sort of been something on the back of my plate, but one of the board of selectmen had reached out to ask if we would be applying for the small communities grant application, which would be associated with either a park grant or a land grant. So this, for me anyways, as far as a property goes where we would be able to add some pervious infrastructure to the property to allow for more accessible trails, just more compact. But again, minimal, so it's not impacting the property greatly. I had thought to look up basically costs associated with putting in a loop trail that would lead from the parking area, and it'd be crushed stone, almost like a stone dust material. Like I said, from the parking area, which needs slight regrading, but I talked to our DPW director, and he seems to think that we have materials in-house to do that. But again, parking area down the current existing path, the main trail there, and then tail off, instead of going down towards the ponding areas, to trail off next to the stone wall until you get to the entrance of the woods. And then continuing into the woods, there's a small loop, I guess, that would have some natural play structures, which would be very natural in terms of like hurdling logs, very minimal, and then coming back out along the side of the field back to the parking area. After speaking with Groton, I believe it's their, I don't believe it's their land steward, I think it's their, I can't think of the gentleman's name, gentleman's position, but he basically designed it, worked through it, looked up the cost, and they got grant funds as well for it. It cost them just under $30,000, which I think is minimal in terms of a cost of a project that would be proposed for a park grant, which would lead me to believe that we would have somewhat of a chance. But again, it's just a potential project idea because we are approaching the deadline for the small communities grant application.
Yep.
I do have,
Because the grant would cover, like you said, it's a relatively small amount for the park grant, right?
correct.
So the grant in theory would cover the full project.
Yep,
And if we were proposing the project, we'd be proposing that we'd be doing this project if we were to receive.
Contingent upon.
Receive it.
correct. Okay. So this is an extremely rough sketch. If you're not familiar with the area, this is an aerial view, which I think most of us are. This is the very rough sketch. And to get you oriented, this is the parking area here. Here's Flanagan Road. And the trail would, like I said, come out of the parking area. You'd still be on that main cart path or
Yeah.
whichever it was. And then you're coming out along the stone wall, which is also along the tree line. So you're not going through the entirety of the field, so you still have that nice habitat. And then there's a small clearing and trail continuing, and then a loop that overlooks Freedom Farm, and then continues back out. And there were two things that I had looked at. It would obviously be more cost effective to come back out the same trail, but I also did look at an extension this way. And it's not too much more in terms of cost overall, but it does increase the cost, obviously, because you're bringing more stone dust, more landscaping fabric. But, so that's the idea, and I wanted to run it by the commission, obviously, to see if this was an of interest project, or if it was, no, we're all set with how the property is, and that's completely fine as well. But again, just trying to be proactive to see if there are funds available and if we can go for them. Again, making sure it's contingent upon receiving those funds. Why not propose something?
Where's Tom, is this normally where Tom Denny, I'm trying to picture
Yes.
Tom Denny coming down, right?
So Tom Denny's over here.
Yep.
All
right,
this is
so
the
that's-
main
so
wood
this
trail
is-
that they come in and
Gotcha,
they
that's
come
where we
this
get the
way.
tree line.
They do use this area for some of their eco games, basically, or different exercises. And again, that's why we'd just be doing very natural play structures
Yeah.
to be mindful of that and just be mindful of the resources that are on the property.
I mean, it seems like it's far, I'm trying to think, other than town common, do we really have many, and not that this would be 100% ADA accessible, but do we have many of our conservation areas that are accessible?
We don't, and that's, again, part of the open space and recreation plan is looking at these and assessing them and then hopefully making an area. This, as it stands, there is, I believe, one handicap parking spot. And along with that, you can access it along that main road there. But because of the grades going further down to the pond, I am going to walk out with the individual who did a similar project in Groton to see what they did, but their area was relatively flat. But with the grades going down to the pond, I wouldn't see it as an area that you could technically say is accessible. But that's why the point of interest would be overlooking Freedom Farm, also the natural play area, and then that field at the front.
And there's nothing there now, right?
No. Yeah,
Oh,
well,
I mean, there's the trails
Yeah, the
exist.
trails.
Yeah, this,
once you
Just
get
manage
to
this
that
one is,
end.
but there's nothing going where you penciled in there.
There's
Yes,
some
there is,
Tom
so
Denny
from the
trails,
wood line
yeah.
in,
There.
yes.
So it would be basically expanding
Fixing it.
existing, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and wasn't that the Council on Aging, wasn't that one of their big requests, was
Right.
they wanted more accessibility?
Mhm.
Which seems like we tie into this with the grant
When's
application.
the
So we
deadline?
to have a few words from
When's the
them, there
deadline
couldn't be
for
a bad
the,
thing.
Yep.
when's the deadline for the grant? To be-
March 30th. for the small community.
Do you think you'd be able to put it together? I'm not sure if you have the time. And,
Possible, yes.
if you have the time to fit it into your schedule, I don't see why not. It seems like a worthwhile project for that, and we have nothing else teed up for that grant right now.
And it does become ADA, right? So that you can.
Well, it's not, so
it's
I would-
not so much, yeah.
You can't say ADA, it's accessible, because technically there are regulations or encouraged.
There are other
It's a higher
standards.
code,
Yeah, there are encouraged standards for natural or wooded accessible trails. They typically ask you to look at the Forest Service standards.
Okay.
But it becomes a little fuzzy,
Yeah.
and they will never be ADA unless it's a boardwalk or paved
Yeah.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
its entirety.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I'd say pursue it if you
Okay,
can.
yeah.
Free money? What the heck?
We'll look again
Well, it's
next
not
year.
free.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's,
Nothing's
it requires some effort.
Yeah.
And it's a good one too, that, if we don't manage to submit this year, it gives us more time to think ahead for next year, just to,
Exactly.
as these opportunities come up, just to know.
Right, and with the contingency of even receiving the grant, who knows, we may receive it, we may not. So that adds a level as well of giving us more time if it's not received.
If they don't give it to us this year, they can
Yeah.
get a better shot.
Yeah. By the way, we're back here. It's
Oh,
too bad I still keep it because it just ended up on the couch for 3 weeks.
you can.
Sure. Yep. All right, you're all set, right, Tim?
Yes.
The Bolton Conservation Commission will now hold a public hearing under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a notice of intent submitted by Alan DePietro for the proposal of a single-family home at the property located at Lot 1 off of Keel Road. The public meeting to be held this evening at this time.
So,
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, so as a reminder, yeah, we've gone out there, do you have a copy of the plans with the narrative? Sorry,
No.
I print stuff out, today's the day.
That's the
Yep,
old narrative, and that would be added onto it.
this would be added onto this?
yes.
That's the way around. But yeah, because that's the new,
This is the new to be
Yeah.
added, okay.
I mean, I guess it doesn't matter, but yes. Yep.
All right. Through it. And just a reminder for anybody new, this was a project we had gone out to take a look. It's a proposed house. It actually falls within the buffer zone, so we're trying to see how we condition it to fit within. We actually opened the meeting, our last meeting. And since then, I had a chance to go out for a site walk to take a look. Mr. DePietro kind of marked out where the house was proposed to be situated, following along with the plans he had already drawn up. We looked at some things that possibly we would like to see change. Possibly could he move this, possibly could he move that. And Mr. DePietro just put together a new narrative that basically ties in with this map, showing how certain things might be shifted or moved.
Yeah, and I can walk you through that
If you want to do it quickly, because
Yeah. Okay. So basically, based on the site visit, we realized that we were squeezing a little towards where the land dropped off, and
Yeah.
decided that it'd be, if possible, to scoot the house over. And actually, it was pretty easy with what it was. So basically, I've moved the house and the garage as close as possible to the septic, and not knowing the exact details of that right now, as close as possible is what I put in here. But the drawing shows pretty much what it is. So this is project narrative continued based on the site visit, February 27, 2018. So we have number one, the footprint of the proposed house, which was asked in the last meeting, is written now as 50 feet by 40 feet, the footprint of the house, and the garage is 30 feet by 30 feet. Drip line recharge trench will be provided around the perimeter of the house and the garage so that runoff from the roof goes infiltrates back into the ground. The house attached garage will be located as close to the septic system as possible in order to allow the greatest buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetland in the southeast, which was the tight point that we saw when we were out there. Number four, provided the 100-foot well radius to the septic is maintained, the wellhead may be moved forward towards Teal Road in order to provide construction and maintenance access for a drill rig, et cetera, with less impact on the resource area. That may not be as big of a problem now that the house is moved over, but I think that the well was still cited as being down that drop off. And we'll get it back up. We'll get it back up because there'll be a large lawn area out here in the front, and assuming that we can stay away from the septic, we'll swing that out as far as possible. And number five, subsequent plans will incorporate these changes. I think the first time you'd see a detailed plan like this is actually for the detailed septic drawing, which will be
When they do that, we can set.
And you'll see it, and that'll have these changes reflected on the official drawings.
I like that you changed the driveway coming into the front as opposed to
Yeah.
on the side.
Yeah, and I think that works fine. It doesn't detract from the home or anything. And actually, when I look at this, I kind of like the layout a little better when it kind of up on its little island there.
Tightened it up a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, and from the sidewalk, I mean, everything's pulled as far out as we possibly can. You know, it's nice that, again, the septic's outside the jurisdiction, which is great. Everything pulls forward. Bringing the driveway in front is fantastic. The driveway coming in, goes through buffer zone, but it's basically the already established cart path. It's there. I mean, from going out on the sidewalk and talking through it a little bit out there, I mean, this is the stuff I wanted to see in the project narrative. I don't know if people have other questions, thoughts, but please. Is anybody here tonight to comment on this? Rebecca, do you have any thoughts?
I do not, aside from erosion control, which that's fine. We had silt fence and then hay bales, so the only thing, did we say, and this is my fault, because I know we already discussed it, did we say that hay bales were fine, or we wanted something else?
I mean, what do you think is best practice?
Best practice, because it already has the silt fence proposed, and I understand why they would do hay bales because of that slope right there, I would assume. The only other thing I would suggest is the mulch shocks instead of the hay bales. They're a little bit more substantial and stay better in place than the straw bales. But again, I completely understand why they proposed it, but I just want to make sure we're good, because I don't have that from the last meeting. I can watch it in the minutes, but I can't remember, which is a big deal. We already have the erosion control on here.
I'm trying,
The well was double hay
This
bale?
one?
Huh? The well was double hay bale?
Yes. Yeah, so the only,
How long would the hay bales be there for? Through construction and then?
until they receive the certificate of compliance. So basically until the lots prior to construction, they're in place. I typically go out, do a site visit with the engineer or the builder, and then, or the site manager, not the builder. And we go over the erosion control, make sure it's in place, make sure it's covering everything. And then it's in place there through construction, through any site work, all the way until the site stabilizes and receives the COC. So the hay bales, typically you stay away from them unless there's substantial earth movement or earthwork
Mhm.
because of the seed. I
Right,
think you brought that up before, so you're aware of that.
yeah.
Also, the only thing, just like we saw recently is, or I had seen recently on 466 is, because the hay bales are staked, it would probably be fine. But typically when you have an overlap, if there's any sediment runoff, it will
Mhm.
push through the cracks. So a wattle is one piece, so you're
Right.
not overlapping in too many places.
Yeah.
And I can see the layout here, they are doubling. Some people do back to back with no spacing as well with hay bales, so that's why I say it's fine, and I understand why they would do it that way.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then it looks like as well where the current area is, where it would be a crossing. They're proposing an infiltration trench, which is good.
I mean, it's a tight site, and if that cart path wasn't there, I would say it's impossible, but it is here. It is present, and it is the minimum width of what a drive-in bolt is approved for. So obviously the project has to go through other permitting as well, but I think it's been pulled away as far as it can be.
Do you see any way to mitigate? In other words, when we were out there, I didn't really see anywhere on this particular site where you could say, all right, well, because we're in the buffer zone here, can you give back some yard or some area here? I didn't see an area where that would make sense to replant or plant anything, but I don't have the best eye for that normally.
The only area I would be able to see it is the area, but it is the area back here.
Yeah.
Or around here, right below the slope there, and that would be, planting most likely a wetland shrub species, or, basically just supplementing the wetland area, but because the limit of work is pretty tight right around the house, I think the only area
Of concern
would be
in here, which would be this area.
So I guess, or even supplementing this.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that it just allowing buffer zone areas to just naturalize.
Yeah, and
Just
that's,
there's no disturbance anyways.
yeah, that's what I would honestly
Might
lean
be the
toward.
best in there, yeah. Yeah, and sometimes it's obvious in this side, I couldn't see.
Yeah,
anywhere
if
where it
this
wasn't
crossing
already-
hadn't been present already, then I could say, okay, so we'll push it to go a certain way, and then basically fill that in with supplemental plantings, but yeah, I would honestly just have it renaturalize in the other areas that are outside of that, that limit of work here, or
Yeah.
the fenced
Yeah,
area.
still the buffer zone.
And then outside of that, so you still have a substantial area that's gonna renaturalize.
Yeah.
But I think that's manageable.
That said,
I was just kind of curious, where, once they get this started, where are they gonna put all this stuff? all that dirt and stuff. Is that-
Stockpile or?
Yeah, when they start digging and,
So they'd have to stockpile outside of the 100-foot.
right, so
So
that was
would be
on
on
the,
top of the
That was
septic
on
And
there.
that's
area.
in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
in there.
Construction
But I don't think,
stockpile, that's at the
we
bottom.
actually didn't say, look at it, when we're there, look at, that's where it goes. It's- but I-
Well, yeah, so for your reference, where the septic is
Yes.
pretty much the only area outside the buffer zone. So once the septic's done, or
Yeah.
prior to it,
So they
depending
put
on the
everything in.
construction. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're basically gonna come in and they're gonna level off this, level off this area. You saw how it went up on the hill. Some of that material's gonna come down. It's gonna get pretty leveled out, and then.
Because that's the
and that'll
one
be about
thing
it.
in the narrative was that everything's stockpiled up, not everything. The
Yeah.
stockpile would be outside the buffer zone,
Right.
which is non-jurisdictional to us,
Right,
shouldn't be a problem.
as long as it's addressed, I guess it's fine.
Thoughts, questions,
No.
concerns?
One other
Go ahead.
last concern I have, or rather just something to note in the order of conditions, is to prior to construction of work, the trees need to be marked, which, what ones are being removed. I know most of them are small diameter, but that's just typical, just so you're aware. So when we go out to do the site visit, the erosion control's in place, trees need to be marked, but they're gonna be removed.
So it's prior to beginning of project, right?
Yep. Prior to site work, you could say.
Yep. All trees that have to be removed. Were people comfortable with the erosion controls in place as they were set up in here? Yeah, different thoughts.
I have to lean towards you, Rebecca, on that.
Okay.
Or just all hay bales?
Hay bales.
It's all hay, yeah,
And
and you would
there's
leave
some
more.
fence as well.
So they do the, like this with the hay bales.
Yeah, they just disintegrate.
I know.
They break down over time.
Right, so how long do you think they'll?
They
how long do you think
seed
they'll be out there?
invasive,
Yeah, I know.
non,
That's the problem, is the
you
seeding
know,
is
the
already.
seeding. They're just not I
No.
wouldn't say they're my favorite, but.
And knowing the site, or being out of the site,
Mm-hmm.
if we were to propose wattles,
Yep.
think they would be sufficient, I could talk.
If you
Um,
were saying that the hay bales are better, the
So the
bottom
more,
of the
the
slope?
more earthwork the hay bales are better.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
but-
regrading.
Yeah. But with that, I wouldn't, for this site, I wouldn't
Hay
say
Just
straw wattles,
dump
I'd say
somewhere.
mulch wattles.
Mulch wattles.
Yeah. Just because they stay in place better, they're a little bit, more weighted, I guess you could
Yeah,
say,
that's
so
the
they'll
stuff.
stay in place instead of having that slip issue.
Yep,
They're not
yeah,
usually
same as a single line.
So they bring in non-native.
And it's a fairly common enough
species.
product.
Yeah.
Because I'm always used to the straw wattles, but I'm not used to the mulch wattles.
Yeah, they also make, I think, it's almost like a
So they just
foam,
tear.
like a, well, yeah, it's like a biodegradable foam that they put in the water, but those are a little bit harder to find.
So they don't make hay bales locally. And within New England.
But this is, it's
Where do you get hay bales anyway?
it's straw,
Yeah,
right?
that's what she
Straw is
can
more
get.
It's
difficult.
the straw, right?
Yeah.
All right.
They're straw bales.
So the straw bales are not hay bales.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the weed seeds that, or as much.
Yeah.
Not as much as.
Yeah.
So basically, we're saying
So
current erosion.
what about hay bales up around the house where there's a lot of regrading going on? And then the wattles at the
Down by the-
road crossing? Where we're going,
Yeah.
kind of cutting right through the wetlands there?
Yeah, that's fine. So you do
That makes sense.
Is it definitely if they're, yes, in here,
Yeah,
all hay bales, or straw bales.
it's a lot of them.
This is always
Yeah.
this one.
Because that might do a
Right.
contingent upon,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
No cart path in there,
Oh,
it was
and
very muddy.
Yep. And that comes all the way up to.
Right, right. And this is high for those.
Okay, so I have, so the house has been adjusted as close as possible to the septic. Well will be reestablished off the slope, further from the wetlands if possible. Septic drawing will see changes reflected on the plan, so that's just talking about the
Yep.
plan, the garage built straight.
Can't go that.
So just talking about the
Because then
adjustment of the
you're gonna
driveway
go from that 100 foot.
or the house.
From the septic. There's a little bit of room.
And then propose to renaturalize outside of the limit of work prior to site work commencing, mark trees to be removed within the limit of work. Proposed erosion controls reviewed, adjusting the erosion control, sediment control to mulch walls and silt fence near proposed driveway and crossing. Then straw bales for proposed erosion control around single-family home structure due to amount of earthwork proposed. Did I miss something?
Prior to site work, all the trees that we removed should be marked.
Got it.
That's the hay bale, right?
Did she miss anything?
Yep.
That's around the, is that around the house?
Yeah,
It's on the hay bales, okay.
right.
Do you think she missed anything?
I don't
That's
think
okay.
so.
I don't think so.
Okay, so we're gonna try this. So this is for NOI, right? It's a negative, I think my options.
It's not a negative. It's a negative. So an
All right,
RDA.
so we're ready.
Oh, yeah. No,
So you have two options. You can, so just a clarification point as well that I did double check. The commission's option tonight is to issue, not option, if the commission has sufficient documentation, and it seems like we do, we can only issue the Wetlands Protection Act Form 5 Order of Conditions under the state DEP. And then the local, we can't due to the taxes. However, that can be drafted as well, so once that issue is cleared up, that can be issued right away. But again, so this one can be issued, the local bylaw cannot be.
okay. So.
And if you have questions about that, I made a copy. Just so you have it.
So.
So your options are to accept or deny,
Yep. Originally accepted.
or conditionally
Conditionally
accept.
accepted, yeah.
So approve subject to the following conditions, or denied because it cannot be conditioned to meet the performance standards set forth in the Wetland Protection Act, the wetland regulations, or denied. The information submitted by the applicant is not sufficient to describe the work or the effect of the work on interest identified in the Wetlands Protection Act. So those are your two.
Yeah. If we were to accept, we propose accepting,
Yep.
conditional upon everything we have put in here, would we want to do two, would we propose to, say for instance, accept the NOI under the state
Yep.
regulation, right? Have a vote on that, and then, in theory, we could propose to accept the draft.
You could accept the, So you can't, you can accept the draft, but you can't issue
An
the
order.
local, special conditions for the project. You
Okay.
can issue, so you can accept both, but only issue, that's probably a better way of doing it.
Yeah, to accept them both,
Yeah.
right? And do we have to make mention to issuing, or is that just caught up as part of the process? Like, if we accept both, does
So-
then one get issued and one not get issued, or do we need to vote to issue, to not issue?
I would
Sure.
vote to issue, to not issue.
Okay. Okay.
And, can I see that paper again, just so we have the language? So you would be not issuing the local based on the taxation bylaw, of chapter 215. And that's just local. that's-
Yeah.
Thank you.
So would it then be two votes, one to accept and then propose that we issue it, but normally isn't
So you'd be doing
that we?
3, technically.
Okay, gotcha, that
So you'd be
we,
proposing to accept both,
yep,
proposing to, and then vote. Propose to issue 1, vote, and then propose to, I think you would propose to vote, and then because you can't, you would have to just say no, unless you just don't vote on that at all, because that can't be issued,
right,
due to chapter 2.
yeah.
So that last part, I'm not sure how to word that.
That's,
I don't
um,
think you have to vote on the last one then. I would think
Okay.
you'd have to state the process.
Cannot be issued.
But cannot process it because of
Gotcha.
chapter.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be a vote on the third one, just a vote on the first.
done the first two.
That's my thought.
Yeah, no, that makes
That makes
perfect
sense.
sense, perfect sense. Okay. So now I have to actually try to propose something. So, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the current NOI as proposed with the conditions, oh my gosh, added as discussed and reviewed earlier in the meeting. And that's it for issuing, for accepting.
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Okay. So accepted. So, I would like to, this is the state, I can never think, conditions. This would be issuing the notice of intent, but I'm issuing this state notice of intent? What's the best wording for?
So I would say you're issuing the order of conditions.
Yep.
Under the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection.
Yep,
And I would read the DEP file number.
yep. That should work.
Yep.
Okay. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we issue the order of conditions for Lot 1 Teal Road under Mass DEP environmental protection regulations for Mass DEP file number 0112-0660. All those in favor? Oh, do I hear a second? I'm
Second.
sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So issued. And this is the state that I have, right?
Yep. So you just need to, or I can do it, if I can borrow a pen, just
Yep.
write in those couple.
Do you want to type in those couple and have us stop in this week to sign?
I think we can do it now.
We don't have,
it's another day or so.
I think it's taking so long to get this done.
Yeah.
Go ahead, and- yeah.
Alright. So this would be special conditions.
How are you? Good.
First one of these.
Yeah. Kind of split.
Yeah.
Always separate again. Conservation.
Look at all
Always
this one.
something.
Look at
See.
now, your lens put it on again.
See.
So I already have the trees marked in there.
This is off right after the alpacas during the storm. They just,
You know, they
don't care.
they had a tent, right? So it was a tent. Unfortunately, the tent blew over. But
Oh.
they never go in it anyway.
Oh,
They
so-
prefer, I don't know, maybe they're smarter than,
Yeah.
don't go inside the thing, we know it's gonna blow
It's gonna
over.
blow, yeah.
right? But, yeah, the females go inside, they kind of huddle up, but the males, let's get that guy away from the, I don't wanna be
Keep moving,
next to
right?
him,
Keep
you
moving,
know?
keep warm, yeah.
So they all go and kind of get a little spot under a tree somewhere. Yeah, sometimes they'll be out there with snow on, you know, go inside, they don't want it, they got 6 inches of snow on their back, they're walking around. They got heavy coats. It's the-
That's right, it's high altitudes, yeah, yeah, they get their share of cold.
I do have, so I mean, yeah,
Yeah. You didn't see them there, like I said, we're over.
Right.
They went over there.
Yeah, they come
Park
over
trees.
sometimes, that's what.
Bird
yeah.
controls, mulch wattles.
They stay by the food rules.
President has
That's
that
right.
and strop sales with proposed
So do I.
control rates.
Let's take a cruise.
That's everything I can remember.
Thank you. Did you try to come by yesterday? I was out there, I just didn't have the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you might have seen me, because we were there, so.
I didn't, what was, yesterday was Monday, yeah, I don't think, and then today, I think I heard back from Rebecca, but it was like at 10:45.
Yeah.
I was
Last minute.
out.
You can come by and see the apartment sometime.
Yeah.
Okay. Faster rate enough.
I know, I was just thinking that, and I was going to make a copy of it. But as of right now, we're still open tomorrow, so I can do it tomorrow.
School's doing a release. Big call about on the way over, yeah.
School already been
I don't know,
canceled.
probably be a snow day on Thursday.
Release tomorrow, yeah.
Is it supposed to snow all day Thursday as well?
Yeah.
That's what
I
it's saying.
All
think
night.
Thursday's supposed to be the worst.
So you need to mention the state that we cannot vote on.
Oh, the, yeah, for
Oh,
the
yeah,
tenth.
not for the
Yeah, we
10th.
just didn't have a vote, right, so we.
Yeah, but you
You
still need to know.
Note it.
Okay.
So you still have to say,
Under the bylaw.
the local taxation bylaw, chapter 215.
So it's just recognize that why we're not voting on that at this moment.
Okay. But is it a motion?
No, just that there's more of just documenting it.
Sure. So this time, we will not be issuing the order of condition under the local bylaw due to conflict with local taxation bylaw, chapter 215. Is that?
Yep, that's just noted.
Yeah.
And once that's paid, it comes back in front of you guys?
Yep.
Yeah, and we just
And
have
then
to,
you'll vote.
yeah, to release, and it doesn't change, so I mean, the narrative is as it
Yep.
stands, and we just vote to release.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Everyone signed.
Yes. Yes.
Today's date is
6th, 3/6. Volunteer land steward. You have a chance to
I'm
read
gonna
out.
recuse myself of
You're gonna
this one.
recuse yourself on
What?
this vote?
I'm gonna vote myself.
Yeah, I'll give you my quick thoughts. The three people that applied all seemed qualified, all had different things to offer, all were willing to do the time. Not because he's sitting to my left, but if Jeff Bryan thinks he has the time to do it, of all of them, I figured Jeff, A is a member of the Trails Committee, is a member of the Conservation Commission, knows the trails pretty well, has been working with Rebecca for a long time. Seemed to me like the logical first choice. I'd really love to see Andrews get involved with either Trails Committee or Concom. It'd be great to have another member or two, but I just think Jeff's been serving the longest, knows the trails, the areas the best, works with every commission that's actually connected to him, and it seemed like a logical choice to me. Your other thoughts?
Just like you, they're all great, so maybe if we can pull a little bit of everybody in, that'd be wonderful too, because they all had different aspects, but.
You're probably gonna have to work closely with this person.
Yeah, obviously, I try and remain unbiased. I did look at everyone's qualifications or their experience. We had someone last minute apply. They have quite a bit of experience, it seems, and very familiar with the technical side, which is beneficial. I think Andre's brought to the table a lot of the fundraising and community outreach aspects, which what Lori was touching on is beneficial as well. Everyone has a little bit to contribute, but I think Jeff, again, as long as he has the time, and he seems to have the most time out of everyone right now, along with being on the trails, he's already an active member of the Trails Committee. I'm going to repeat a lot of things Brian said. But one of the requirements is to be a member of the Trails Committee member, and we had one applicant not, to my understanding, show that they are actively pursuing that. And, you know, you don't have to attend every meeting necessarily, but we would hope that, or at least I would hope Volunteer Land Steward would. So just like last night when I had a prior engagement, you know, we can all be on the same page moving forward with trail work or property work. And the Trails Committee itself does a great job and has that communication line open, but it's good to have a point person on that. Along with Jeff's already taken our chainsaw safety course, I believe.
No cuts.
No cuts so far. So he's obviously been an active member and is active on the Conservation Commission as well, and knows what we expect in terms of potential projects that may impact resource areas, which I think is beneficial. And the other applicants did seem to have that awareness as well and willingness to learn. But I think right now I would feel personally more comfortable have Jeff be the volunteer land steward, just because we're moving into spring and projects are increasing. I've already had 2 groups contact us to see if we could have work days or what they can do to help. And it'd be nice to have someone who's well-versed in the work that's already being done. But I think those other applicants, just like Lori said, I think it would be great to have them on the Conservation Commission as well as on the Trails Committee to sort of supplement that and offer more.
If they, not as full-time, but tap into a little bit
Yeah.
of their resources if they're willing to, that'd be excellent.
Yeah, exactly, so.
And usually most volunteer land stewards we have will absolutely quit the commission within 6 months. So there may be opportunities for them down the road, good chance for them to start to start getting involved. So I guess with that said, I'd like to make a motion that we offer the volunteer land steward position to Jeffrey Bryant. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You can't vote, Jeff.
Yeah, he's recused himself.
Lori has a second?
Yep.
Oh.
Okay.
And now all we need is a project list.
Oh.
I already
got
have
it.
it
No, you have to-
Yeah.
I have
you
a
to
great
say
area
you want to
already.
accept it too. We're just gonna offer it to you. You should really think about it.
Work.
Yeah, might need to sleep on this.
I might, yes. I'll tell you whether the basement floods tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
It will.
Check out the blowdown here first thing.
So I need to reach out to Dawn now that the commission's expressed their interest in having you as the volunteer land steward. So we'll speak to Dawn, and then, or I'll speak to Dawn and see if he wants to speak with you as well. And then we will try and get you on the agenda to have the board of selectmen appoint you.
Okay.
All right.
I love the board select.
Yep.
They're always fun, always fun. So last on tonight, right? Discussion on who's going to be the authorizing board for the wild and scenic designation article.
Yes. So I emailed everyone just a brief description and then the actual article itself, which is quite short. For those of you watching, I've received a few questions about, as well as for the commission, about what the designation actually implies. Is there increased jurisdictional areas for town departments, state, federal departments, or organizations? The answer is no. It does not increase or give authority to an outside party. All the regulations that are in place in jurisdictional areas are still the same. No increase, no decrease. What this plays into is it proposes a plan for the main stem area of the Nashua, which the only portion that runs through Bolton is relatively small in comparison to the rest of the communities, and it runs through the Bolton Flats Wildlife Management Area. I had a question regarding tributaries and how it would affect, because obviously the waterways are connected. The only way it would have an effect, which again, it wouldn't have a negative impact, is if for some reason there's an aquatic invasive that gets released upstream or becomes infested upstream and then may impact or has a high likelihood of impacting the main stem or already has. We would then reach out to the stewardship committee for them to review it and see if we could ask them for funding, and that's really what it is. I would compare it to the open space and recreation plan, as it meets a lot of those goals in terms of the stewardship that's proposed. But that's it. It's basically not to lessen it because it does a lot more than that. It does provide protection, but just reiteration of what's already protected. But again, does allow for application to funding when necessary. So the two parties that would be the appropriate authorizing boards for the wild and scenic designation in order for the article to be presented at town meeting is the Conservation Commission or the Board of Selectmen. To my understanding, it's either us or them. It's not that if one of us doesn't do it, it won't get pushed through, because the Board of Selectmen have expressed interest that if we won't sponsor it, they will. The conversation I had was in the interest of, normally with larger projects, we ask the Board of Selectmen to approve it as well. Just like on a smaller scale in terms of projects, not to lessen your potential position, but, so the volunteer land steward, we approve it, but then we have to go to the Board of Selectmen for it to be appointed. So that's why we weren't sure if the commission would like to take it, or if we would encourage the Board of Selectmen to do so.
To encourage the board of selectmen to do something.
Well, usually, and honestly, as long as it's coming up, I really don't care. I don't think
Yeah,
anybody
so-
does. If I'm remembering correctly, sometimes the way they go on is that it's proposed by this commission, and then it'll show what advisory thinks of it, what the selectmen think of it.
Yep.
Not that it makes it any much better, but is it better when, Concom says, this is something we'd like to see, and the Board of Selectmen say they approve it, rather than the selectmen saying we'd like to see it and approve it?
I think it makes sense for the Conservation Commission to propose it.
Kind of falls in our realm, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and then
Agreed.
approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, which it seems like they're willing to do. So I guess what we're saying is, do we need to vote?
Yes.
Okay. Would it be proposing that that the Conservation Commission authorizes the wild and scenic designation article?
I would do it, or word it as the Conservation Commission, or you propose or make a motion
Yeah.
to have the Conservation Commission act as the authorizing board for wild and scenic designation article, for the wild and scenic designation article for town meeting.
Okay, just that simple.
I think.
I think so too,
That's-
and we'll, if we need to vote a different way, we can talk to
Yeah.
Don and the selectmen. I
Yeah.
don't think it'll be contentious, I hope not.
I don't think so.
So I'd like to make a motion, that the Conservation Commission act as the authorizing board for the wild and scenic designation article at the 2018 town meeting. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And I figure if you talk to Don and he wants us to word it a different way or say it a different way, we definitely can. But just to make clear to them that we're happy to
Who's writing
designate it.
You are.
It's already written, it's
Oh,
a
it is.
line.
Yeah.
Was that what
It's
that
two
meeting
lines,
email-
yeah, it's 2 lines. It basically just says.
Oh,
When is the town meeting?
Yeah.
It's normally
May,
the first weekend
in May, okay.
You'll be in the next
Double
one.
check
No,
that. I
I'm
should
sure.
know that.
Um,
This is authorized, do we have a full
Just so you know,
contingent of
it's recorded, so it's
selectmen?
not authorized.
Yes.
Do we have a full contingent of selectmen now?
Yes, yeah.
Good.
No.
More stuff.
Yeah, I think that's it,
Okay.
because we said we'd like me to move forward with the small communities grant application.
Right.
And obviously I would send it to you to read through prior. But and we'll have a meeting prior to the
Yes, we will.
deadline, but just so I can start on that. Okay, so that's it.
The next meeting is March 22nd, right?
Is it the
Yes.
20th or the 22nd?
22nd,
22nd.
because the ZBA is meeting March 20th.
Who's meeting on the
Oh,
20th?
that's right, that's how we done that last time. Okay.
Yes.
Emily, you want to give us a good snow day
It's
recommendations?
math night.
It's that plan.
It's what?
Math night at the school.
On the 22nd?
Yeah.
How dare they?
Are you not going?
I don't think. I don't think.
If it comes up and we won't have a quorum, because we will still have a quorum, Just let me know.
Yeah, because I should double check that. Be surprised.
I was just looking
No,
at the
but I
time
do
and
not
I
think
believe
that was
it
on
was
there.
6 to
It was not on our
7:30.
calendar. Usually we have these on there.
Yeah.
Okay, let me double check that. We do
Yeah.
have some time to.
Is a Wednesday a possibility or not, the 21st, if it is an issue?
I need to double check that. I believe the 22nd was what was open.
Right, I know
In
we
terms
talked
of
about the last
spaces.
meeting. Okay.
But I can double check.
Other commissioners might have shifted too.
This just came
Sometimes they
home like
change.
yesterday or today.
See, that's
So
fine.
I
It's
know
fine.
last
It's not on
meeting
my
we said that
calendar.
date was fine.
Anything else? Is it snow day recommendations? No? Good things to do on a snow day?
Visit our conservation
Yeah, visit-
property.
The liquor store down the road.
Liquor store is always a good one. Do it tonight.
Pizza and liquor store.
Okay, all that said, I'd like to make a motion that we officially close the Tuesday, March 6, 2018 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So close. Good night.